Hey cuties, what's up? We are back with some more reactions after dark, and we are of course going to be watching 20 creepypastas inspired by real events, obviously by Blame It on Jorge. Now we're actually doing this because I was trying to record a different video right now, but I was like, okay, wait a minute, this is way too messed up at the beginning. It was dark, just like the dark side of YouTube, number 3 by The Void. And the first story in that was like so messed up. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do this. 'Cause I just wanted to do something short today. And just, that one was just like too messed up. So we are on Blame It on Jorge. Just found a random video from 7 months ago. It seems like it might be interesting, so we'll go ahead and see that. No hater segment today. Obviously, no radical break because video's not really long enough for that, or it's specifically just I don't really feel like doing any radical stuff yet. Also, Nick Crowley, Lazy Masquerade, Nexpo didn't really have anything, which is why I was going to do The Void, but like, again, we already know what happened with The Void. I didn't really want to do any Dark Asia stuff, so we literally, all we have left is Blame It on Jorge today. And of course, we're not doing Stephanie or Rotten Mango just because I do too much Stephanie stuff as it is. We have to diversify now and again. So you have anything else that, any other channels you might want to see on the reactions after dark, let me know. Just so I have more options to choose from that you/other people actually want to watch me react to. You know. And just to save you some trouble, I mean, I already know about Mr. Ballin, so you don't have to suggest that. I already know about him. I've watched a bunch of his stuff on my own time in the past, so anyone but the people that I've named so far, you know that I watch, plus Mr. Ballin. So yeah, anybody but those, of course, because I mean, I already do Nexpo, Blame It on Jorge, Nick Crowley, Lazy Masquerade, The Void, Stephanie Sue, Rotten Mango. Again, I know about Mr. Ballin. We did someone called Opium before, I think. I haven't done one of her things in a long time. I don't even know if she still has a channel, if she changed the name of her channel, because I looked up that name, or how I thought she spelled it, and I couldn't find it, so if she changed her name, I don't know what it's changed to now. I have to go try to hunt her down. But yeah, we can just get into it now. Hopefully this is an interesting video with a lot to talk about. Well, let me get rid of that. I mean, you can't see it because it's the little wing over in the corner. Blame It on Jorge, and viewer discretion is advised, maybe.
The Gansfield experiment is a psychological and paranormal test designed to explore extrasensory perception, also known as ESP. Originally
Is this what he normally sounds like? Or is this just someone else talking? Is this a collab? Yeah, featured narrators. Yeah, this isn't just him, because I was like, that is not Jorge.
Developed in the 1960s and 70s, the experiment tested the effects of sensory deprivation on the human brain. Participants would wear halved ping pong balls over their eyes, listen to white noise through headphones, and be bathed in red light. This setup was meant to block out normal sensory input, inducing a mild trance or a hallucinatory state. In this state, some researchers believe that subjects might be more open to telepathic messages or subconscious thoughts. In the Creepypasta version, the narrator recounts his personal experiments with the Gansfield method, documenting the unsettling visions reported by participants. Some claim to see complex mathematical formulas scrolling across their vision, others saw distorted faces or disembodied hands reaching towards them. One participant described a gnawing sense of dread, as if something was in the room watching him. The story implies that this experiment might do more than just alter perception. It might open a door. Whether that door leads to the subconscious, another dimension, or God forbid something darker is left unclear. Yeah,
I was wondering like what this is. I never heard of this as a creepypasta. Like, probably these tests I've heard of. Like, it sounds like what's it called? It's not actually real. It's also just a made-up story, like the Russian sleep experiments or something like that. That sounds like what this is. Though I'm pretty sure everyone like was upset like when they realized, oh, this isn't actually real. Makes you kind of want to like believe that stuff. It's kind of like the problem with horror. Like once you understand it's not real, it's like, oh well, whatever, you know. But the Russian sleep experiments were pretty cool, I believe. The funny thing about that is like the image that's usually used for that, like the nearly like mummified body image that's supposed to be like actual person. I don't think they're dead. That they just look mummified, but still alive. That's just like a Halloween decoration? Question mark. So that's like the funny thing about that story, is that even that's just like a Halloween decoration.
Real life, however, the experiment's connection to supernatural phenomena is purely speculative. The Gansfield setup was indeed used in parapsychology experiments in the 1970s. The goal was to test whether the subjects in a sensory-deprived state could receive images being mentally sent by another person in a separate room. However, when the brain is deprived of input, it can fill the gaps itself, leading to visual distortions, phantom sounds, and a creeping sense of presence. Common ingredients in ghost stories. So while the Gansfield experiment doesn't open a literal gateway to the paranormal, it does reveal how strange and fragile human perception can be, which to me is a lot more terrifying than the actual story.
Julia?
Was a woman who, according to legend, was mistakenly buried alive in her family's mausoleum in 1850.
Okay, this is a actual tomb, question mark.
Years later, when the tomb was reopened, her skeletal remains were discovered huddled near the door, implying that she had woken up inside and desperately tried to escape.
I'm seeing this toy. I was like, what is this robot? I'm guessing this person was young? Since we have like this toy robot, these other potential toys, this might even be like candy.
The story of her death became one of South Carolina's most infamous ghost stories. In the creepypasta, the OP claims they were locked inside Julia's mausoleum overnight by friends as a cruel prank. As the night progresses, they describe an intense pressure in the air, like being watched by something unseen. Scratching noises echo through the stone chamber, followed by a piercing scream and the sound of a girl sobbing. When the doors finally open the next morning, the OP is found with streaks of blood across the tomb door and small blood spots on their face as if someone had touched them during the night. Julia Legree was, in fact, a real person who died in 1852 at the age of 23.
I mean, that's a real tomb, is it not? So clearly someone had to be buried there that was named that, right? I've never heard of either of these two, though. I haven't heard of the Gansfield or this Julia person. I have not really read creepypastas. Like, maybe I have read a few like over a decade ago. Like I did read like Jeff the Killer before, maybe the Rake, if the Rake is on there. Yeah, I've like a very small handful of stuff I actually read from creepypasta, and that might have been like all on the same day, and then I didn't touch it again. So if these are all infamous stories, I have no clue.
Though the cause of death is not fully confirmed, many sources suggest she died of diphtheria, a common and often fatal illness at the time. The idea that she was buried alive after slipping into a coma mistaken for death has been widely circulated in folklore but has no confirmed historical evidence. It's worth noting that in the 19th century,
how would you know?
Premature burial was widespread, and this may have...
Yeah, how would you even know if she was buried alive prematurely? I mean, if she was in there and came back alive, she would just eventually die from, what, dehydration, right? So how do you even know that happened? Like, the story kind of just defeats itself immediately. Because who would know that she was buried alive? If she was buried alive, they would know, and like they would take her out of there. And then she wouldn't have been buried alive. She would be alive and live the rest of her life.
Have helped fuel the legend.
Tower of
Indian
Silence.
officials were investigating multiple missing persons reports near a jungle.
Oh, we have... is this Nexpo or Crowley? Crowley, right? I don't think it's Masquerade. Is it? We have all their names down here, right? This, The Creeping Reading, Let's Read Podcast, Source Brew. Just those three people. Doesn't say anything about anyone else. But we know this guy.
History and dogma, a site traditionally used for exposing bodies to the elements. However, this particular dogma holds disturbing anomalies. 1. The bodies found there did not match the descriptions of the missing people, and locals failed to recognize any of them. 2. Unlike typical dogmas, no birds were present to consume the corpses, only maggots and flies. 3. Officials never conducted a full count of the bodies, as they felt uneasy and avoided prolonged investigation. 4. A deep pit in the center contained festering blood, far more than the surrounding corpses could have supplied. 5. When a villager accidentally kicked a bone into the pit, a gas explosion erupted, splashing officials with decomposing blood. Those affected became delirious, ranting about being tainted by a Hirman, or a Zoroastrian embodiment of evil. They later died in quarantine after attacking hospital staff.
That's vague. That can mean, oh, they later died because they were eliminated because they were losing their minds. Which could have all just been self-imposed. Like, the blood didn't actually cause them to lose their mind. They got splashed with blood, and their beliefs drove them crazy, believing that they were, tainted by some sort of evil, and then just freaked out, and then got taken out by officials at the hospital for attacking the staff. Question for maybe the staff fought back and they did it themselves. Also, I don't know if any of what he's reading right now is even real, or if that's just part of the creepypasta.
And 6. When officials returned the next day in hazmat gear, the site was completely empty. The bodies and blood had vanished, leaving only a single photograph as evidence.
Okay, well that's just... You have to take them for the word.
Creepypasta is purely fictional. The Tower of Silence is a real procedure dating back to at least the 5th century BCE. The purpose of the tower was to allow human corpses to decompose without contaminating the soil, which was believed to be sacred by the Zoroastrians. However, by the 20th century, the practice was largely abandoned due to urban expansion and changing beliefs.
Charles Manson.
What? The cop... they didn't write this correctly. The Capras... What?
Abandoned due to urban expansion and changing beliefs.
The Capgras delusion.
Charles Manson was, by all means, a completely healthy person. Unfortunately, his wife, Harriet Manson, had developed a rare condition called Capgras delusion, which is the belief that a friend or family member has been replaced by an identical imposter. This belief occurred when she suffered an aneurysm, which severely damaged her brain. In this case, Harriet believed her younger brother, Nolan, was replaced by an imposter, but she mostly kept this to herself. The night before her surgery, she whispered into Charles's ear, "Nolan's gone, Charlie. That's someone else. I don't know who he is, but it's not him. I'm so sorry."
Okay, is that gonna give him a shared delusion?
Harriet did not survive the surgery. Charles gained
What? Shared psychosis or whatever?
someone else. I don't know who he is, but it's not him. I'm so sorry. Harriet did not survive the surgery. Charles gained custody of Nolan, but for reasons unknown, he too began to believe that the boy was not who he claimed to be. His
Okay, yeah, shared psychosis. I mean, she's gone, but still shared.
growing paranoia culminated in a knife attack. Nolan was stabbed 3 times in the chest and stomach, but survived the ordeal. Charles was committed to a mental institution, where he remains today. Several years later, Nolan, now a young adult, has forgiven Charles and visits him on his birthdays. Charles, however, had only one thing to say in a recent interview: "The real Nolan would never forgive me." While the story and these characters likely never existed, Capgras delusion is a real psychological condition. It's
Okay, so story's fake, but what is Capra?
often associated with schizophrenia, brain injuries, or dementia. However, the story twists this by implying that Charles developed this condition through association with his wife. Merely being
Yeah, shared psychosis.
told that her brother was an imposter was enough for Charles to land in a mental institution. Thankfully, this seems unlikely, but the condition is very real.
Sleep
The
paralysis.
creepypasta is a short story based on a very real phenomenon.
I mean, there's this creepypasta about just sleep paralysis, a normal thing. And that's such a broad stroke, right? Because there could be 1,000 creepypasta stories about sleep paralysis. Because it's not a specific thing, a specific person, a specific area, a specific object, a specific location. It's just a huge, broad idea / thing that is something that happens to a lot of people, including myself. I've talked about sleep paralysis a lot. I don't remember the last time I've had it. I don't know if I've had it at the new place that I'm living, because I moved here a few months ago. So the last time I would have had it was at the old place, so at some point last year. But again, it's just weird to be like, oh yeah, sleep paralysis is such a general, unspecific thing.
During REM sleep, the body enters a natural state of paralysis, triggered by chemicals that prevent us from acting out our dreams. However, on rare occasions, a person may regain consciousness before their body wakes up, leaving them fully aware but completely immobile. This terrifying state is known as sleep paralysis. Common symptoms include an overwhelming sense of dread, inability to move or speak, hallucinations, tightness in the chest, difficulty breathing, sweating, and intense emotional distress. Many people report seeing shadowy figures in the room, feeling a presence looming nearby, or even sensing something sitting on their chest. These experiences are often so vivid that it becomes difficult to distinguish dreams from reality. In the creepypasta, the narrator awakens paralyzed in bed, unable to
Okay, it's just literally just called sleep paralysis.
speak or call out. As their vision adjusts in the dark, they notice something is wrong. Their spouse is lying beside them, but completely still. When the paralysis finally breaks and the narrator is able to move, they realize in horror that their partner is dead. Her throat has been slashed, and her wide, unblinking eyes are frozen in terror.
From 19
The Alice killings. This looks like a wiki page. So is this something that actually happened? There's some like shoujo-esque anime over there on the side.
1999 to 2005, a series of unsolved murders supposedly took place in Japan.
Supposedly. Let's just read this on the screen. The Alice killings remain, to this day, one of the strangest and most unsolved serial killings in Japan. From 99 to 05, a series of 5 murders took place. They might each have been completely unrelated, if not for the calling card that the killer left at each crime. He would deposit, he in quotations, you don't know if it's a he, question mark if that's unsolved, especially if you got this like shoujo manga stuff over here on the side. He would deposit a playing card. It varied from killing to killing at each scene, in an obvious location that had Alice written on it in the victim's blood. Very few other clues were found at each crime scene, and eventually the case went cold. Below are the details of each killing.
At each crime scene, the playing card was left behind by the killer, marked with the word Alice written in blood.
It's very like show/movie-esque. It's like very like unreal. Like it's something you would see and I have seen definitely in shows and
The
movies.
5 known victims were Sasaki Megumi, a 29-year-old restaurant owner, Yamane Akio, a local singer in a small band, Kai Sakura, a teenage girl, and siblings Oshiro Hayato and Hina.
Maybe this was based on that though.
While there were a few suspects and even one reported arrest, the killer was never caught, and the murders remain unsolved. That is, of course, just a story. There is no record in Japanese police history of such a case, and the
Okay, so this is from the creepypasta. Like this is the creepypasta, not actually from this. So never mind. It doesn't matter. I was assuming this was like wiki, but this is like the creepypasta wiki. I didn't realize that creepypasta itself is a wiki.
considered as just a creepypasta. Japanese readers have pointed out that a crime spree of this magnitude would have received widespread media coverage both domestically and internationally, yet no legitimate news sources or police records exist to back it up. The story
Then what is it based on?
appears to be loosely inspired by a real case in Spain involving a serial killer known as the Playing Card Killer. In 2003, Alfredo Galan left playing cards next to his victims at several crime scenes before being arrested and imprisoned. Galan had no ties to Japan and never used the name Alice, but the detail of the card being left behind is strikingly similar.
The Well to Hell. Is this like AI generated? Because it says the gates. Yeah, you can see it on screen. The gates of hell. But this is called the Well to Hell.
According to the story, Soviet engineers were drilling deep into the Kola Peninsula in search of oil or natural gas. Their drill suddenly begins to spin wildly, indicating that they had struck an empty chamber deep beneath the earth. Then,
Just like the wailings coming from hell or something.
intense heat burst forth from the borehole, allegedly reaching temperatures of over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. But the most disturbing part came when they lowered a heat-resistant microphone into
Okay, yeah, I vaguely know this, and you have like the sounds of hell or whatever it's called.
the pit. What they reportedly captured were the anguished screams of countless voices crying out in torment. One horrified geologist is alleged to have exclaimed, "We have penetrated into the Earth's core and entered the gates of hell." So, yeah, the Soviet Union did actually drill into the Kola Peninsula in the 1980s. This was a part of a real scientific project known as the Kola Super Deep Borehole, which ultimately reached a depth of over 40,000 feet, making it the deepest man-made hole in the Earth's crust. Scientists encountered unusual rock formations and high temperatures that made further drilling impossible. But that's where the truth ends. The rest, the demonic screams, the gateway to hell quote, and the so-called audio recording, all fabrications. The tape that circulated online was traced back to a loop mix of a sound effect allegedly lifted from a horror movie.
Sure, but where's the creepypasta part of that? Question mark. Is that an entry on creepypasta.com/whatever? Or are we just saying something spooky for the sake of something spooky? Also, the Titanic coincidence. Yeah, I had heard about that, like, video recording back in, like, the late 2000s? Question mark? Like the late double O's? Never actually listened to it, question mark. I might have heard it recently, but not really. If I did hear it recently, I don't remember what it exactly sounded like. But yeah, that's an oldie. That story of, them drilling down to the ground, putting a microphone down there, and hearing the sounds of hell. Like, I wonder if we'll ever just have a machine strong enough to bore down and be able to take the heat that's going to come from that, and then just see what's going on down there. My issue with that is, of course, like destroying the planet. Like, you drill too far down, and then the planet like just, I don't know what, stop spinning or something for some reason. I don't know. Like, I'm pretty sure there is some sort of consequences if you were to dig deep enough down to get to the core. Uh, sure, you could prove like what's inside and get like an accurate depiction of what is going on in the middle of a planet, but then it's like, okay, now our planet's gonna blow up or stop spinning or cool down or heat up, or just insert your idea here, right? It's just how much you're willing to risk to gain that knowledge.
14 years before the famous Titanic sank into the North Atlantic Ocean, a man named Morgan Andrew Robertson wrote a book about a ship. The title of the book was Futility. The ship was a triple screw with very few lifeboats, but no one really worried. It was practically unsinkable. It was the largest ship ever created and could hold a capacity of 3,000 passengers and crew members. In the end, 2,500 passengers and crew boarded the ship. Then, one April night, moving at 25 knots, the ship struck an iceberg on its starboard side. It was in the North Atlantic when it sank, 400 nautical miles from Newfoundland. More than half of the passengers on board perished. The novel shares some uncanny similarities with the real-life sinking of the Titanic. Both ships collided with an iceberg in April in the North Atlantic Ocean. Both did not have enough lifeboats for all of its passengers. Even the sizes of both ships were roughly the same.
But is this book even real?
But the strangest coincidence of all were the ships' names. The real-life one was the Titanic, but the one from the novel was named Titan. At the end of the day, though, these aren't just coincidences. Apparently Robertson, who was also a real person, was accused of precognition or clairvoyance, but even he denied such feats.
Are we just like putting in stories that have nothing to do with it? Like, that's an interesting story to talk about, but like, where is the creepypasta part of that? Like, if I see creepypasta, I'm assuming you mean like legitimately something from the wiki, clearly, not just, oh yeah, here's a spooky thing that happened in real life that's untied to the creepypasta stuff. Anyways, though, that is an interesting story if it did actually happen. Someone writing a story about essentially a one-to-one recreation of the Titanic, and then the Titanic ended up happening after that book was written. Question mark. And I would be like, yeah, no, he precognition all the way, sure. Even if he denies it, maybe he doesn't know. It's if that is in fact something that's happened, we need to paying more attention to just like weird stuff like that. Like, it's hindsight's 2020, you won't know until it happens. Because I've talked about it before. Maybe it's even shown up in a rad video. I don't know which rad video, but I think I already knew about it before then, if it did. Someone on some forum somewhere online was like, hey, what would happen if this exact airplane crashed into the towers, like way before that happened in real life? And I think that this is not like made up. This is something that actually happened. Like, someone talked about what would happen, like being realistic, like trying to get an accurate, like not physical, like scientific physics-based answer to what would happen if this big plane crashed into the Twin Towers. Question mark. And like, even they might have even gone into like the jet fuel discussion as well. That's a whole big conspiracy. Like, jet fuel can't burn steel pipes or something, right? I don't remember exactly what it was. They might even talk about that before it even happened in real life. If that is something that happened, that's twice now, like a vehicle-based tragedy happened that someone talked about before it in basically one-to-one detail before it ends up happening. So it's kind of like, how many times has this happened? Again, of course, if you throw a bunch of darts at a dartboard, you're gonna hit what you eventually want to hit, right? But still, if they were saying that isn't just straight up creepypasta and that is an actual book that was written, then like, what? Hello? And then we literally had a discussion about the Twin Towers before the Twin Towers were hit. as well. Like, again, how many other stories like this have been talked about before the actual events happened?
The Game Boy camera was a digital accessory released in 1998.
I have one of these. I still have it in my possession. It wouldn't be easy to show you, but I, sure enough, have it right over there on the shelf. It's weird this is showing up. I have one of these.
Allowing users to take photos and play minigames with their Game Boys. However, by selecting the Run option in the menu, users would trigger a disturbing event, a distorted face appearing on the screen, accompanied by the unsettling phrase, "Who are you running from?"
I think I remember this.
Different versions of the Game Boy camera featured multiple eerie faces, each crudely edited with drawn-on features like fake hair, eyebrows, and symbols on their foreheads. The Creepypasta tries to link these images to a kidnapping by a cult, with the face marked by a black star representing the leader, while others bore wave symbols, supposedly indicating disciples. The final face, lacking any symbols, was theorized to be the victim. In reality, though, there is no confirmed evidence of the Game Boy camera being linked to any such crimes. The accessory was very real, though, as were the strange images and messages it would sometimes conjure up.
Yeah, probably just people at Nintendo just being silly, right? Again, like, I don't think it's in any question if this thing was, like, the Game Boy camera was real, right? Like, everybody knows the Game Boy camera. Again, I literally have one in real life. If I had a Game Boy, still, because I don't have a Game Boy or Game Boy Advanced or Game Boy Advance SP anymore, or a DS. I have my 3DS, but I don't think it can play advanced stuff, can it? I don't think it, no. Maybe? Does it have a slot on top? It might only be able to play advanced games, not anything prior to that. But yeah, if I had a device that could actually run my camera, I could just test it right now. But again, one of the few ancient pieces of tech that I still own. Also, Annabelle the doll.
A mother purchased a Raggedy Ann doll for
Yeah, the doll's allegedly real. And they keep, like, making up all this other nonsense about it. Like, oh yeah, anybody who has it. Why? There's a picture here. Why do you have a picture of this creature here? Question mark. Like, it's like you're trying to make the doll possessed or evil or whatever. Because if it wasn't, you're trying really hard to make it be the case. Anyways, yeah, didn't someone, like, steal this doll and has it right now? Or isn't it, like, one of the people from Ghosts? Is it Ghost Encounters? I don't think it's Ghost Encounters. I think Ghost Encounters is that movie. The Ghosts show where the guy is just screaming. Zach, his name's like Zach, right? He's just screaming and yelling at the ghost and cussing him out all the time. Didn't one of the guys from that show get the Annabelle doll in recent history? So, I mean, like, within the last 5 or so years, and then died while in possession of the doll? Like, literally, didn't someone from that show die because they had the Annabelle doll? Like, this doll? Like, I can look that up right now, but I swear that's something that happened. Or somebody died from some show. Alright, so the show is Ghost Adventures. I forget what it's called, but his name was Dan Riviera, and he was in possession of the doll when he died. And he died last year in July. So less than a year ago, he died whilst on tour with the doll. With this doll that's on the screen right now, he died. Question mark. Apparently, he had already suffered from, like, heart issues and whatnot, and the doll wasn't with him, or not. It wasn't in the same room as him when he died. But again, that just adds fuel to the fire, right? Like, someone who is prevalent in the ghost hunting scene, who had this infamous Annabelle doll, died while it was in his possession? Question mark. Which is kind of like, just the people who own this doll couldn't probably have asked for a better outcome. I know that sounds crazy, and if they actually feel that way, well, then someone needs to do something about that. Because I feel like if you really are just, you don't care about anyone and are just about money, money, money. I don't know if they care about money or not, right? They probably don't. But that could be a scenario of that, like, oh yeah, like this a famous ghost hunter died while having our doll. Like it's going to be added to their like shop's repertoire. Like, oh yeah, it not only is this the evil Annabelle doll, it also killed Dan Riviera. Like I wouldn't hold it past them. Not that I really know anything about them. Maybe they're not bad people, right? But there's people out there like that would be like immediately next day, yeah, come get your picture with the doll that killed Riviera. Even though it was just, allegedly just standard cardiac arrest, maybe from someone who just suffered from heart disease naturally, or just heart problems. Uh, yeah, it's just that's if you didn't know that happened with this doll, which the movies are based on this doll, right? But even though it isn't I think the doll from the movies isn't a Raggedy Ann. It's some weird freak, more realistic doll. I haven't seen them, by the way. I haven't seen the Annabelle movies. But yeah, I mean, if you didn't know that, now you know that something that's happened. Like one of the ghost hunters that you might have seen on the TV 20 years ago actually died while in possession of this thing.
For her daughter Donna. Some days later, the two noticed that the doll would move on her own. Sometimes they would come home and find the doll in a completely different room or in a different position. In one instance, Donna noticed that blood-like stain on the doll. Frightened, they turned to a spiritual medium for help, and a seance was performed. According to the medium, the doll was possessed by a girl named Annabelle, who tragically passed away as a child. Feeling sympathy for the spirit, Donna kept the doll. Until one night, Annabelle seemingly struck again. Donna's roommate Angie was found dead in her bathroom with the words "Wanna Play" written in blood across the wall. Eventually, paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren took possession of the doll, declaring it an extremely dangerous entity. Today, Annabelle is housed in the Warren Occult Museum in a locked case, where she's said to still be active. Snapping back to reality, almost this entire creepypasta was taken from an actual paranormal investigation in the 1970s. Ed and Lorraine Warren are real people, and they supposedly...
Because Ed and Lorraine, I believe Ed and Lorraine are bad people, right? I feel like I've heard the name enough to be like, oh wait, I've heard people talk about them and say they actually aren't good people. So if they're even still alive, which I don't think they are, maybe they are still alive, then they definitely would be like so happy that this doll died in the possession of somebody.
received a Raggedy Ann doll from a student nurse who claimed it was acting strange. And yeah, the doll does reside in a real museum called the Warren Occult Museum. It was even the inspiration for the Conjuring movies. But like a lot of movies about paranormal things or based on a true story, its authenticity is widely debated. And skeptics argue that the events were exaggerated, faked, or fabricated.
This was May 31st, 2025 is when this video came out. So I was gonna say they didn't talk about whatchamacallit. I was like, ooh, didn't this happen after that? No, this video went up before that. He sadly passed away in July. So a few months later, literally, a guy passed away whilst having this doll. So again, believe what you want with the Annabelle doll. Again, I don't know if those two are still alive. I'm assuming they're not, but I'm pretty sure they were like considered like slight scam artists, question mark. So again, who knows is what's going on there. Or if someone would even like try to take somebody out to try and get more infamy around the doll. Like, I don't think that happened to him, right? We're just saying it's just standard heart failure, but what if it wasn't, right? Who knows? Who knows if there's even a conspiracy about that? I'm just like thinking of things because I actually know about a little bit about that doll, and even like those two who owned it. Question mark. Smiling Man?
The Smiling Man is a story about a strange encounter a person had during a late-night walk. The OP lived in a major US city, and one night, he encountered a man dancing from a distance. He was tall, lanky, and was wearing an old suit. He also had an incredibly wide smile plastered on his face. The OP walked away to cross a nearby street, and when he glanced back, he noticed that the Smiling Man stopped dancing and was facing him. As the OP continued to walk, the Smiling Man kept following him. Then, he began running towards him. Unnerved, the OP ran through the dimly lit street until the Smiling Man was nowhere to be seen. Afterwards, the OP never walked out late at night again, and eventually moved away. While The Smiling Man is a creepypasta, it actually started as a Reddit post on r/Let'sNotMeet, a community for people to share their scary true encounters. The story...
Have we, like, reacted to Let's Not Meet on the channel before? I think we have. Or at least I've heard stories from this on a video somewhere. Maybe I was watching someone else react to Let's Not Meet, or it just happened to show up in a video that I was watching
Was posted by
on
user Blue
the Rad series.
Title, who during an AMA insisted that the story was based on a real encounter he had in Seattle, Washington. At the end of the day, it is just a story. But the idea of a strange encounter with a weirdo late at night in a big city isn't too outlandish.
In
Bunnyman
1904, a bus
Bridge?
transporting convicts had crashed, allowing the prisoners to escape into the nearby woods. Over time, authorities recaptured all but two, Marcus A. Walster and Douglas J. Griffin.
Wait, why does this sound familiar?
As police continued their manhunt for
The
these
Bunnyman
they would
stuff.
encounter mutilated and half-eaten rabbits throughout the area. Eventually, Marcus was found dead near Fairfax Station Bridge, clutching a crude weapon. However, the killings continued and Douglas was blamed for the carnage, earning the nickname the Bunnyman. The story takes a darker turn when, on Halloween night in 1905, 3 teenagers were found brutally murdered at the bridge. Their bodies were hung from the overpass of the Fairfax Station Bridge, so that their dangling legs were seen by oncoming traffic. Since then, the bridge has been dubbed the Bunnyman Bridge, and every few years, gruesome murders would occur there.
Yeah, I've heard of this bridge before,
The Bunnyman
somewhere.
legend originates from 2 documented incidents in Fairfax County, Virginia in 1970. Historian Brian A. Conley researched the legend and found reports of a man in a rabbit costume threatening people with an axe. The first incident occurred on October 19, 1970, when Robert Bennett, a U.S. Air Force Academy cadet, and his fiancée were parked on Guinea Road in Burke, Virginia. Suddenly, their car window was smashed and a man in a white suit shouted at them about trespassing. As they fled, they found a hatchet inside their car. When questioned, the couple disagreed on whether the man was wearing long bunny ears. The second sighting happened 10 days later on October 29, 1970, when security guard Paul Phillips encountered a man in a gray, black, and white bunny costume at a construction site. The man chopped at a porch post with an axe, warning Phillips not to approach. Despite police investigations, no suspect was found, and the legend grew.
Unexplainable photograph. That is such a vague description.
Unexplainable photograph is the shortest creepypasta on the list, so for that reason, we'll read it verbatim. This photo was taken on a mobile phone. The little girl.
Okay, let's see. We have a little girl. Where is the weirdness? Because have I seen this picture before? Oh, is it just the one in between the legs down there? This one? Right here?
Girl you see crying refused to be a part of the group, as she said a little boy was scaring her. Thinking very little of her tantrum, the little girl's mother took the photo anyway. She later discovered what the child was crying about. Look closely at the knee-height space between the second and third girl from the left. That, I suspect, is the reason why the little girl was crying. The accompanying image is a classic ghost photo, which began circling the internet in the 2000s. It was taken by a 17-year-old Matthew Summers on his mobile phone as he and his friends prepared to head out. Like most ghost photos, though, its authenticity is widely debated, and skeptics believe that the face is simply a result of humans being good at finding patterns and randomness.
Yeah, sure. 'Cause their pants can't hold that entire thing, but maybe because she knows she has a purse, maybe like her purse is placed down on the ground right there, and that's what all that black is, and then we're just filling in the blanks for the rest of that. Google Maps balcony, what?
Humans being good at finding patterns and randomness.
Google Maps balcony
2011, a
creature.
user on 4chan's
Oh, I've seen this
posted
picture
a
before.
thread pointing to a strange address on Google Maps. When users navigated to the location, they found an eerie figure standing motionless on a second-story balcony.
Yeah, I've seen this picture when, I don't know, probably like another decade, 15 years ago or so. I don't know if it was like 15 years. 15 years is actually way too long ago. Like 10 years ago or so, and I was like looking at stuff. There's a video that had like a bunch of creepy Google Map stuff on it, and this was one of the pictures in that.
The figure appeared humanoid, tall, dark, and vaguely menacing. Theories began to spread quickly. Some believed it was a cryptid or some kind of entity watching passersby. Others dismissed it as a mannequin or a surfboard rack designed to hold tiki decorations. But the mystery escalated when Google Street View later censored the image. The house became blurred, and the figure vanished from public view. This only deepened the intrigue. Why would Google blur out such a harmless image unless there was something to hide? Eventually, the owner of the house stepped forward and revealed the truth. The figure was indeed a tiki-style surfboard holder mounted to the balcony railing. He explained that after the address went viral, he received unwanted attention, including visitors and concerns about potential theft. As a result, he requested that Google blur out the image to protect his privacy and property.
Sure. The Red Room.
Room Curse is a Japanese internet legend about a mysterious pop-up that appears on a victim's computer.
Anata wa suki desu ka? Is what that says. And hi in ie. So, is it just asking, do you like? Do you like what? Is it, you like? Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like, do you like? And then you're saying yes or no. But it's like, what do you... saying yes or no too. What am I liking? Is it going to put you into a red room? You know what a red room is if they're not going to explain it. It's supposed to be like a room where, on the dark web, where people get tortured.
Asking, do you like the Red Room? Suppose
Do you like, see, what do you mean, do you like the red room?
internet legend about a mysterious pop-up that appears
This does not say, do you like the red room? It says, do you like? And it says yes or no. Because it just says, anata wa suki desu ka? It's literally just, do you like? And then yes or no as like the options. You're adding red room for free to that sentence.
on a victim's
What would red room even be? Like, is red like Aki? Aki heya? And would you need to add like extra particles to that? Like, so like room of red, maybe? So rooms red? I don't know if you need like a no in between. Like a Aki no heya or Aki na heya? I'm not sure. But yeah, like there's no word for red, Aki, and no room for no word. Why am I stuttering so much? There's no word for red, Aki, in this sentence, and there's no word for room, heya, in this sentence.
computer, asking, do you like the Red Room? Supposedly,
Again, stop adding red room for free. It doesn't say that.
the pop-up would kill any person it encounters. One day, a man named Eric was told about the urban legend by a friend of his, Ramsey. Curious, Eric went home to investigate online. Eventually, he stumbled upon the Red Room pop-up, and they showed him a strange list of names. Horrified, Eric realized that
What do we have now? Now it's asking. Before the first sentence was, do you like? Now it says, anata wa Aki. I'm assuming heya now, because I don't actually know what heya is in kanji. I just know the hiragana. So it just say Aki there in red, so it is asking red. I can't tell the chicken scratch here though. I can't see what that is, but then same thing. Suki desu ka? So this sentence actually says, "Do you like the red room?" Literally says, "Do you like the red room?" Yes or no.
these were the names of people who have previously died. The final name was Ramsey. The story ends with a news report about Eric and Ramsey's deaths by their computer. Their walls were painted red with their own blood. The story gained notoriety due to its rumored connection to the Sasebo slashing, a real-life murder committed by a 6th grade girl in 2004. Some claim she was obsessed with a flash animation depicting the Red Room curse, though this link remains speculative.
So again, like a red room, as far as like dark web stuff goes, is just a room where on the dark web where you go to pay to watch someone get tortured, potentially live. It's just like a snuff kind of thing. Weird though, like first time ever that doing Duolingo all the time actually paid off being able to completely read that sentence. Well, for the most part, the red room part was meh, like a B. I give myself a B on that. But the first sentence, that was just like baby level Japanese though.
Gloomy Sunday is a song composed in 1933 by Hungarian pianist and composer Rezo Serez. It gained international notoriety as the so-called Hungarian suicide song, due to claims that it supposedly drove dozens of people to take their own lives.
I don't want to hear it.
The song's mournful melody and bleak lyrics struck such a deep emotional chord that it compelled listeners to end their suffering.
I better not be playing right now.
In an attempt to win back his ex-girlfriend. They briefly reunited, but soon after, she tragically died by jumping from his apartment window and leaving behind a note that simply read the song's title.
Again, this song better not be playing in the background right now. I ain't playing with you, Jorge. And Crowley / Nexpo? I don't know who this is talking right now.
The version of the song released to the public was edited, with rewritten lyrics that focused heavily on death and grief. Despite this, the melancholic tone remained intact. In 1968, Serez himself also died by suicide, which fueled the song's dreadful reputation.
Is this real?
Gloomy Sunday is very much a real song, and Rezo Serez was a real Hungarian musician. His tragic death is a documented fact, but the claims surrounding the song's influence are widely considered an urban legend. At the time of its release, Hungary was suffering from famine, poverty, and political instability due to the Great Depression. Suicide rates were already unusually high.
It could have just been like a straw that broke the camel's back, then I guess. Like everyone was already ready to do it, and they just hear this sad song and like, okay, I'm out.
The song's release coinciding with these events gave rise to sensationalized media reports, particularly in the West, with exaggerated stories of mass suicides tied to the song.
Crybaby Lane.
Involves a person.
Okay, we're still playing that song in the background, so I'm guessing it isn't Gloomy Sunday.
named Jonathan, who was hired by Nickelodeon Studios as an intern. He was placed on the creative production team for an upcoming Nickelodeon movie. However, the director, Peter Lorre, wanted it to be as scary as possible, far beyond what is appropriate for children. Ideas involving death and cannibalism were suggested, and strangely, Jonathan was the only one to object. Then, in true creepypasta fashion, Lorre started to show pictures of dead children to his creative team. For some reason. Friday, Jonathan was escorted out of the studio, and he never returned. The film, called Cry Baby Lane, was eventually released by Nickelodeon, but was never seen again after its premiere.
Only aired it once, and it now considered a lost film. So it came out in 2000. I would have been watching Nickelodeon in the 2000s. So if this is a real thing that aired on Nickelodeon, I may have potentially watched this. Though if it only aired once, I could have easily have missed it, right? So who knows? If this isn't lost media anymore, it'd be nice to see this. Like, what the heck is this? And if I remember it.
Cry Baby Lane holds a special place in my heart because it was a lost movie, which the author of this creepypasta was clearly drawing from. Yes,
was?
Yes, there were rumors that terrified audiences.
He said was, not still is.
And yes, it never re-aired after its Halloween premiere. But everything else is obviously fake. And when Cry Baby Lane was found, it was nowhere near as violent as the
was found.
Nickelodeon must have caught on to the story because they promoted the re-airing of the film as their banned movie that was locked away for being too terrifying.
Okay, I have to look into that then, see if I ever watched it then.
In the 1800s, Thomas Otto and his family moved to a mansion in Key West, Florida. One day, the family servant, an unnamed woman, was caught practicing black magic. Before she was fired, she gave a doll to the Otto's son, Robert. The boy loved the doll and named it after himself. But soon afterwards, strange events began to occur, such as objects moving on their own and the sound of giggling heard throughout the house. Other servants began to quit out of fear, so Robert's parents hid the doll in their upstairs attic. Years later, after Robert inherited the mansion as an adult,
Before we go further, I'm terrified of Chucky. You see, the Chucky's over there. We're going to say this is somehow related to Chucky. I've always hated little dolls that come alive. Like, how many dolls do you think they are coming to life? I'm terrified of Chucky, that horrible movie doll. Oh, they're just talking about Chucky, okay.
so Robert's parents hid the doll in their upstairs attic. Years later, after Robert inherited the mansion as an adult, he uncovered his childhood doll and began to play with it again. Soon after, Robert and his wife died due to mysterious circumstances. Eventually, a new family moved into the mansion, and they too reported strange events occurring. Robert the doll was deemed haunted and ended up being transported to the Martello Museum in Key West, where he sits perched in a glass box. While there's no verified evidence of supernatural activity, Robert the doll is very real and resides on display at the Fort East Martello Museum in Florida. He was indeed owned by a man named Robert Eugene Otto, but was purchased by his grandfather and likely given to him as a gift, rather than a magic-wielding housemaid. Funny enough, the museum has received tons of letters from visitors apologizing to the doll for disrespectful behavior, believing it caused them misfortune. Local legend asserts that the doll has supernatural abilities, but these are nothing more than tall tales.
Abandoned by Disney.
Lorre travels to Disney's Emerald Isle in North Carolina to investigate the mysterious Mogwai's Palace. Rumor has it that it was supposed to be a Jungle Book-themed resort, but for some reason, Disney hastily shut it down. The narrator finds the site overgrown and vandalized, with "Abandoned by Disney" scrawled on its walls. As he ventures inside, things become increasingly unsettling. Eventually, he discovers a pitch-black room filled with decaying Disney props, including...
Is this actually a real video of the real place? Something I've noticed already in this video is the camera movement feels a bit too professional and on rails, honestly. Like, maybe I'm just assuming too much there, but it feels like it's on rails too much. Even like the lighting choice there. Is this just something that was made by Disney, like a little video made by Disney and put out into the world, like as in like an ARG? But like it isn't actually made by some like little guy. It just is made to seem like it was made by some little guy on some little channel.
including a Mickey Mouse costume with its colors inverted. Then, Mickey stands up, speaks in a distorted voice asking, "Wanna see my head come off?" As he pulls his own head, thick yellow blood spills out. Before the user can flee, he sees a message scratched into the metal above the door: "Abandoned by God." While Mogwai's Palace is fictional, Disney has some abandoned projects. In Florida,
Okay,
Discovery
that's not
Island
real.
was once a Disney attraction open to guests from 1974 to 1999. Afterwards, it was abandoned and left to nature, with its building slowly decaying. Likewise, River Country, Disney's first water park, was shut down in 2001 and remains a untouched ruin to this day, with photos of its swampy remains circulating online. While not as sensational as the creepypasta, these real locations lend some credibility to the idea of a ghost park.
What was that picture, that video from before though? Again, it looked way too professionally shot. I talked about the Russian sleep experiment at the very beginning of this video. I thought these were basically the same thing because the Gansfield experiment is literally just the Russian sleep experiment. It's the exact same thing.
The story
Is it
goes that
not?
Russian researchers in the 1940s tested a
Well, I guess it's not exactly the same thing. No, it is. It's sleep deprivation, is it not?
special gas on 5 subjects to keep them awake for 15 days.
Yeah, they're trying to keep them awake as long as humanly possible, and see what happens. And it's like opens up like a gate to hell or something. I don't know.
Russian sleep experiments, this creepypasta became one of the internet's most infamous horror stories. According to the tale, the subjects were political prisoners who were promised freedom if they could survive 2 weeks without sleep. They were placed in a sealed chamber, observed through microphones and small windows, with a constant supply of the gas. For the first 5 days, everything reportedly went as planned. But by day 9, the prisoners began to show signs of paranoia, delusions, and violent behavior. They screamed, tore apart their own flesh, and stopped eating. When researchers tried to intervene, subjects violently resisted, begging to be kept awake. By the end, only one subject remained, and after being shot by one of the researchers, his final words were, "So nearly free." While the story is purely a work of fiction, some speculate that it may have been inspired by real or rumored events. During World War II, another
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like something about World War II is what they could argue that it was based off of all the experiments that were going on back then. Yeah, I think that was the whole thing was once you stay awake for so long, like that, like in this story, this fake story, they gain some sort of knowledge that going to sleep is you don't want to go to sleep, you want to stay awake as long as possible because sleep is like where it's a bad thing or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was. It's been so long since I've heard the Russian sleep experiment. But maybe some sort of like eldritch horror exists in sleep, and thus you have to stay awake forever once you realize that it exists. I don't know.
human experimentation wasn't uncommon, particularly by the Nazis. The Soviets did experiment with sleep deprivation, but this was back in 1894 and on puppies, not political prisoners. The closest possible inspiration comes from Russian biochemist Grigory Marinovsky, also known as the Doctor of Death. In the 1940s, he experimented with numerous poisons on unsuspecting political prisoners, notably mustard gas. However, instead of researching sleep deprivation, Marinovsky was instead interested in eliminating Stalin's political opponents to be used in interrogations. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. My buddy Joel from the Let's Read YouTube channel, who's been a longtime collaborator of my channel, has his own podcast under the Ballin Studios. It's called A Twist of History, and it really has some next level storytelling and production quality. In fact, it's already ranked #1 in all of the history podcasts. Go check it out wherever you listen to podcasts. The link will be down below.
Well, that was that video. Yeah, that's pretty okay. It's weird that we started and ended the exact same. We started with sleep deprivation story, and then we ended with the sleep deprivation story. The Russian sleep experiments. Because again, I literally not quoted, but like talked about / mentioned the Russian sleep experiments at the beginning when talking about the Gansfield experiment. We have that pit, the Tower of Silence, sleep paralysis, which is so weird that just something as general as sleep paralysis is a whole creepypasta. The Gates of Hell, that's a classic story. The futility one, again, is like a good thought experiment or whatever, or just conspiracy. Because I'm assuming he was saying this is a book that happened before the Titanic. And there's too many coincidences. You can only have so many coincidences until it stops being a coincidence. And that gets added on top of with the whole 9/11 thing that I was talking about, where people were discussing what would happen if they were taken out by an airplane, like the exact airplane that did in fact crash into it. They might even gone into like even more detail about like a second plane. I don't know. And then lo and behold, months, was it like several months? I don't remember if it was several months or like a year later, or however long it was, it did in fact happen. So it's just crazy. We should maybe be looking more into that kind of stuff. You'd almost argue, if you want to go that way, like, is everything just fake? If we can just have literal exact discussions about history playing out before it even plays out, because it's all just like a simulation, blah blah blah. And I'm just getting into crazy nonsense now, but some people might argue, oh, it's all fake, it's all simulation because of like stuff like this. things in history happening in like word for word, one to one in books or conversations before they even end up happening in real life. Game Boy camera, I vaguely remember seeing these pictures with mine, so that's for sure something that happens. The Annabelle doll. I mean, it's weird that we had so many like things to talk about. Like again, the futility thing, the Game Boy camera, the Annabelle with Riviera actually passing away with it in its present, with it in his presence. What else? The Bunny Man I've heard of somewhere. I've literally seen this image of this freak on the balcony like 10 years ago in a creepy Google Maps compilation on YouTube. The Red Room actually could read Japanese and translate for you in real time. Crybaby Lane, that's again something I need to look into because maybe I've actually seen this movie before, I don't know. But because it's live action, maybe not. Anything else? I guess just the Russian sleep experiments. Which are, again, it was pretty cool watching that a long time ago. It did spook me whenever I watched this, like 10 plus years ago. I'm not really scared of anything at all anymore. Like, I'm just completely desensitized to horror, but, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, oof. I was still, you could still get me. Question mark. So yeah, I think we can just go ahead and end the video now. I don't have much more else to say. We're almost at an hour even. But yep, don't know what we're going to be doing in 2 days. 2 days is the 7th. That means the 8th is free, which is nice because I got to do something on the 8th. Then the 9th, then the 11th. So we're kind of like on odd numbers right now, which I don't like. And then on the 12th, I'm probably going to like double up, right? Because we have to do a video on the 11th. But then I need to do that video on the 12th with the Karen Reed interview. We got to watch that for sure, right? I just hope it's not really long, because who knows? It's just going to be like a 2-3 hour long video. It's been so long since I've done a video that long before. That's going to be pretty brutal, but I'm almost making a promise that I'll do it live, so I'm kind of screwing myself over there, right? But what can you do? Anyways, thanks, Kyuuties. I don't know why I can never, like, get my outros straight. Because I keep saying, like, guys, or even there I'm like, thanks, Kyuuties, but that's not exactly how it ends. But it's like, so yeah, Kyuuties, thanks for watching. Remember to buy my stickers, think about becoming a member, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, because we're working on watch time and subscribers, and don't forget we have a throne now as well. And shout out to the members, EmmyStarr, RaleyDrew, and alexgkiller 880. But yeah, Kyuuties, thanks for watching. Tune into the next episode. Like, subscribe, comment. You know the do. See ya.